Okay, so let's go ahead and add some materials to our teapot here, and I'll explain how that all works. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is go over to the polygon and make sure I'm in polygon mode here, and I'm just going to select just some groups of polygons here, and just a little patch right in the middle, and just paint selecting there. All right, so now I'm going to go to texture and assign material group, or we can just hit the M shortcut key, and I'm going to call this, let's see, and be sure you name your material, because without a name, it's very hard to select and identify what your materials are sometimes. So select the name. I'm going to leave this type of default material. I'm going to set the color to click in there and just color it anything I want. And let's just color this green and there and click OK. Leave everything else the same. And there we are. Now what just happened here is that in the shader tree here, Modo created a mask. And within this mask, it creates a material. So the mask itself is an identifier of just that group of polygons. And the material is what it is applying to just that group of polygons. So the mask is necessary to isolate this group from everything else that's going on in your scene. So you can actually have, dozens or hundreds of materials here, but the masks keeps everything isolated unto itself. So, all right, now, let's go ahead and add a couple more. I'm just going to, go to polygons again, double click on that, and I'm going to hit the M key, and we'll call this spout. All right, and just give it a different color. And sometimes you'll want to add different colors to your different materials temporarily, and you can always change them later or do whatever you want with them, but just to be able to identify them easily, sometimes just adding color helps. I'm going to do one more here. I'll select those two, hit the L for loop, shift up arrow key to select those polygons. And if I were to actually select more, there we go, and select something that already has a material assignment to it, and I assign a new material, it's going to overwrite what I had assigned this material to. So if I go to here, call this upper rim, and I will give this a different color. Let's go with this kind of reddish purple. Click OK, and OK, and there you see. Now it overwrote that group of polygons that was there with this new material. Now let's take a look at what's going on with the shader tree. We now have 3 material masks here, and each material mask has a separate material applied to it that isolates that material to just that mask. Now, if you look up here next to the Modo modes bar here, the selection modes here, you also have this little guy right here. And this one is for selecting materials. Just as this is for selecting polygons and edges and vertices, you can select materials with that one highlighted. So if I mouse over this green material, boom, there it is. It highlights it in the shader tree, so that's easy to find. I can also, with this highlighted, I can select a material in the shader tree or a material mask, and it highlights the particular group of polygons here that are applied to that material mask. Now let's dive into the material items themselves and kind of identify what's going on with these materials. What is a material? Well, a material is an attribute of light on the surface of your model. So it is basically how the surfaces respond to the light that's hitting it, because rendering is all about lighting. So if we look at the material node here, or the material item, and look in the properties panel, we can see here that there are also edge tabs here that also have additional attributes to modify. So the easiest ones here, we see the shading model, and usually physically based. I just leave it fixed to physically based because that's the most accurate sort of rendering and shading model. We have diffuse amount, which is the amount of light that bounces off of your object and back into the camera, as opposed to the darkness and lightness of a given color. which is a different attribute. We can also set the diffuse color to anything we want. If we go down here a little bit more, we can set the specular amount, and specular just is another word for reflection, reflectivity of your object. Okay, and we have a Fresnel setting, which is the amount of reflection at a glancing angle. The roughness of the object, the anisotropic quality, which is right here. We have a limit reflection type to environment scene or full scene. So I won't go through all of these in detail, but you can see that there are a lot of settings that we can manipulate. And we'll get into these as we start adding textures to the shoes. So the material trans here is the transmissive qualities of a material. In such case, we're looking at the transparent amount, refractive index, dispersion, all that. And we have a dissolve amount setting, and we have subsurface scattering, which is kind of like how a lampshade or a candle disperses light. We also have luminosity intensity. Luminosity parameters allow you to make any surface on your object luminous and actually cast light. So that's pretty much a brief overview of the material masks and the materials themselves. So let's now take a look at different item types so we can actually add to our material group and see how they affect our surfaces.